Great to see everybody. Great to see you. I'm glad to see the revolution is continuing. Well, we have first seen some of the results of the revolution of a few years ago, and that was last year's election. I understand we had a few new members sent to Congress, and we have you to thank you for. But I do want to take a moment to take a little special privilege and say we also had a new senator from Kentucky, and we like that too. So there's a lot of exciting things going on. There is truly a revolution going on in this country, and we've been dealing with this and encouraging it because I do believe that we live in a time where we do need a change in attitude, a change in ideas. We don't need to just change the political parties. We need to change our philosophy about what this country is all about. You know, this past week we had a pretty good victory for the freedom movement. We had a vote come up all of a sudden under suspension, and it had to do with the Patriot Act. And the Patriot Act we know has nothing to do with patriotism. They always name it opposite of what it is. The Patriot Act is literally the destruction of the Fourth Amendment. That's what it's all about. Now, the one thing in Washington they haven't quite understood is what's happening in grassroots America, because they assumed that everybody loved the Patriot Act. We'll bring it up under suspension and pass it automatically. Well, we didn't get a majority vote, but they didn't pass it automatically with a 2/3 vote, sending a message that this country is waking up and we want to protect our civil liberties as well as our economic liberties. This week I was scheduled to be on a financial program. I've been on a few of those lately, talking about things like the Federal Reserve and a few other things. But I never got around to talking about this program this week about the Federal Reserve because all of a sudden there was a speech given by Mubarak about his potential resignation. Of course, he resigned today. So that was the subject. But a lot of people now say, what should our position be? What should our position be about finding the next dictator of Egypt? And I would say we need to do a lot less, a lot sooner, not only in Egypt, but around the world. You know, some people want to argue with us about that and say we have a moral responsibility to spread our goodness around the world, and it's our obligation to do this. But let me tell you, fiscal conservatives should look at this carefully. How much did we invest in that dictator over the past 30 years? $70 billion we invested in Egypt. And guess what? The government is crumbling and the people are upset, not only with their government, but they're upset with us for propping up that puppet dictator for all those years. Now, to add insult to injury, where do you think the money went? To Swiss bank account. That family, the Mubarak family, has $40, $50, $60 billion, nobody knows, stashed away in other countries, other areas of your money, and that is true. Now, you know, it used to be that conservatives were against foreign aid. I'm still against foreign aid for everybody. Now, I have a saying that I've used to describe foreign aid. Foreign aid is taking money from the poor people of a rich country and giving it to the rich people of a poor country. And there can't be a better example of that than what we did with Egypt. We took money from you, made people poorer, it contributed to our debt, billions and billions of dollars, and all we get is chaos from it and instability. There's nothing wrong with what the founders talked about. They talked about having friendships and trading, getting along with people, and staying out of the entangling alliance in the internal affairs of foreign nations when it's none of our business. Now, we've been doing it for a long time, and you get periods of relative stability. There was relative stability when we were propping up the Shah, but it ended up with bad results. We ended up with the Ayatollah, and now we have a problem on our hands. But all of the Middle East is unstable because of this. Now it's Tunisia, next it's Egypt, and it's going to keep going because all the problems are there because the people don't like us propping up their dictators no more than we would like it if a foreign country came in here and propped up a dictator in our country. But the real danger is that this will most likely spread, and when it gets to Saudi Arabia and there's disruption there, then you are going to see some real problems. And it will be a partial consequence of our flawed foreign policy, and temporary stability does not guarantee stability that we need around the world. And besides, we just flat out don't have the money, and we shouldn't be doing it. Just remember, the Soviet system did not collapse because we had to fight them. They collapsed for economic reasons. Guess where their final plunge was on their empire? Afghanistan. So it makes no sense for us to think that we can keep troops in 135 countries, 900 bases, and think we can do it forever. So no matter how badly you want us to do that, it's time to reassess that foreign policy. It's time for us to bring troops home. We've had troops in Japan since World War II and in Germany. Why are we paying for their defense? Now, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the budget deficit, and that's something that I was concerned about, just a few years back, like 1976. And that's why I haven't voted for any appropriation bills during that period of time either. But people are starting to recognize it's bad. We have to do something about it. We have to have a balanced budget amendment and all these things. But unfortunately, even in spite of the improvement in the Congress right now, we don't have the votes, which is tragic. It's going to continue, and we're going to continue to bail out. We're going to continue to spend the money. Nobody wants to cut. I'm sure that half the people in this room won't cut one penny out of the military. And the military is not equated to defense. Defense spending is one thing. Military spending is what Eisenhower called the military-industrial complex, and we have to go after that. But let's say government, as you all, I am sure, would agree, is out of control, and it's very hard for us to get a handle on it. So let's say we even theoretically, and a miracle happened, and we balance the budget where we are today. It would be still a disaster because we're spending too much money. But it wouldn't change a whole lot. When a crisis comes, guess what happens? Guess who does the bailing out? The Federal Reserve used $4 billion to pass out without congressional approval, and most people say, oh, well, that's the Federal Reserve's job to do that. No, it is our job to check up and find what the Federal Reserve has done, audit them, and find out who their buddies are that they're taking care of.